Start the meeting was in Phil's office a few weeks ago, and we were talking about some of his products and this kind of stuff. And Phil called Steve and says, "Hey, can you be the speaker for the steelheaders?" So Steve Lynch has fished all over the West Coast and all over the world, basically. He's going to be talking a little bit about salmon fishing and the products they use. And I'm a promoter of Phil and his products. I have them in my boat. I use them all the time. Wouldn't be without them. So, Steve Lynch, take over.
Hey, well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate the time to talk to you. Give you a little history on ProCure. ProCure started in 1984, and they were the first commercial cure on the market. So other than borax, that was pretty much all you could do to your eggs, is either just freeze them or put some borax on them. And borax is a preservative. It's not a true cure, but what it will do is dry the egg out, firm it up, and stop it from molding. So a lot of the steelhead fishermen prefer the borax just because of the lack of all the other heavy-duty chemicals. So what Phil started was in his basement of his house with the original line of ProCure. And then it just kind of grew from there. And now there's about 52 cure companies on the market. And they're all pretty much the same. And what you notice on ours, it all says meets Oregon guidelines. About 3 years ago, the fisheries came up and they were worried about the sulfites in the cures. Well, we allowed them to come into our facility. We gave them all of our formulas. And the only thing we had to do to ours was just put the sticker on the bottle. So we were in compliance with all their regulations. But a lot of the other companies had to cut back on their sulfites. But ours, like I said, all we had to do is put a label on the bottle. The most important thing when you're buying a store-bought cure is to know how many pounds each container will cure. It can be quite different. On a regular ProCure and our Wizard, this will do 22 pounds of eggs, to where our Last Supper will do about 7 pounds of eggs. So this you put on quite liberally when you're doing your eggs. So if it doesn't state on the container, you should probably call the manufacturer and just ask how many pounds will it do. Because at 7 pounds of eggs, 2 skeins, you've used half the bottle. If you put half the bottle on with the ProCure or the Wizard, you'll just burn the living daylights out of the eggs. And with these here, all you do on your eggs, and I'm going to cure some up real quick for you, but just butterfly them open. And instead of coating the entire skein, you're just going to do an S pattern, and the gloves on, roll them around. And if you do coat the entire skeins, it's just too heavy duty. It's just going to burn them, dimple them all up, and shrivel them up. Basic way, and there's probably 200 different ways to cure an egg, but we've got a simplified method. And I have all the sheets here that you can come up at the end and grab a sheet. It shows you how to do a basic cure, a store-bought cure. It shows you how to customize a cure and how to build your own cure. And it's quite simple. We also have it on our website as well. But mainly, you need salt, sugar, and borax. And then you can add different ingredients to it. And we list what the ingredients are and what they'll do to you or for you on the eggs. The only thing I would recommend on the curing ingredients is sodium sulfite. It locks the color in as you're dyeing your eggs, so they won't get darker in time. And it's a scent that the salmon really like. But if you put too much on, it can shrivel them up. And a lot of these recipes call for sodium metabisulfite. And I recommend not to use that. It's 3 times heavier than sulfite. And I found the guys usually put way too much on, and they call me saying, hey, their eggs are hard as peas, or just a piece of concrete. And the sulfite is just so heavy duty, it can really ruin your eggs. So unless you really follow the recipe, I recommend not using that one and going with the sodium sulfite. But I'm going to show you here real quick on how simple and easy it is to cure some eggs. A lot of guys are scared of it. They're afraid to cure them. But curing the eggs, you can do it start to finish. Have the product on the eggs in the refrigerator, shoot in less than 5 minutes. So all I do on the skeins of eggs is just butterfly them open, just with a pair of scissors. So I won't use any dyes in here, that way we don't upset the people, so I'll use all natural. So
Thank you, Steve.
you bet. I learned that the hard way. So if the skeins are this big, before I cure them, I will cut them in half. I'm not one for cutting them into the chunks, the size of chunks for fishing. I prefer to do that in the morning when I'm fishing and look at the river. If it's low and clear, I'll use a smaller piece of egg. If it's high and off color, I'll use a larger piece. But all I do is just come through here with a pair of scissors, cut not the skein side, but the open egg side. Just open it up enough so the cure can get all the way through to the berries. And it's pretty simple. All you're going to do on the eggs is just a light S pattern over the row. So, and then once you put the cure on the egg, I roll them around just for about 15 to 20 seconds. And then I put them back in the container and I put them on a shelf in the refrigerator. And I set the timer on my stove. And all I'll do on that is set the timer for 4 hours. When the timer beeps, I'll turn the container upside down, let it sit for another 4 hours. At the end of that second 4-hour period, I'll take the container out of the refrigerator and I'll put it in a colander and I'll let them drip for about 3 minutes so the excess juice can drip out of the egg. And then I put them on a plastic screen propped up on a 4x4 with a light fan blowing on. And that's the final process in the curing, is the heat in the air. So you can let it sit out for, and this, with our temperatures here, usually 3 to 5 hours. If you don't have a place outside you can do it, you can put them on an open rack inside your refrigerator, and that will do the same thing. Here again, in the refrigerator, about 3 hours. But keep in mind, if you have food in your refrigerator, any of the other odors in there will get in the eggs. So if you're going to do that, you should probably have your separate bake fridge to where you have nothing else in it. Like I said, I'm not dyeing these any color here because I do not want to screw up the place here.
Hey, Steve?
Yes, sir.
You don't let the eggs re-soak the juice up?
Well, they will during that 8-hour period, you bet. So 4 hours in the refrigerator, when the timer goes off, you turn it upside down, they will actually, it will let the juice out and take it back in, usually 2 to 3 times in that 8-hour period. You can let them sit longer, but it's not required. You want at least a 4-hour soak time on each side, and the purpose of tipping it upside down so the juices can intermingle through all the eggs again. So all you do on that, like I said, just put it on it, and you don't want to shake them because they're fragile, but I just put it in the shelf of the refrigerator just like this. When the timer goes off, I turn it upside down. That way the cure and the juices completely go through all the skein, the membrane, and get through all the berries. At the end of that second 4-hour period, I just have a plastic colander. I'll put them in and let them drip. And there's not a lot of juice coming out of it. But you know, if you're doing 6 big skeins, you'll have more juice. But just on the average guy getting to fish 2 to 4 skeins, you know, just a little bit of juice comes out. And then like I said,
Steve, when you have big Chinook salmon, big Chinook eggs like that, does that have a problem with curing them?
it does, and also they don't fish as well. I mean, all the fishermen like a big buried egg because they're really pretty. But you know, a medium buried coho or steelhead egg will actually hold up much better for drift fishing. You know, or if you're back bouncing eggs, they'll hold up much better. This size berry is whenever they see them, they want those. These are great bobber egg, or if you're slow, you know, drifting bobber shooting. But if you try to back bounce these at Bonneville, yeah, you're not going to get near the life expectancy out of it as you would.
I've taken a lot of Chinook with big berries, I mean huge eggs in them.
Yeah. And
those are very hard to fit. Basically, the only thing you can do is cure them and bobber fish with them.
correct. It's just, when they get that big, ideally it's a bobber egg.
Yeah.
And I've got a bait freezer at home, and probably 30 different types of cures in there. And so these size berries would be strictly bobber fishing. Like I said, the perfect egg, you know, for drift fishing or back bouncing is you know, a medium berry steelhead or a coho egg. Those will actually hold up the best. Now, but on the larger berry eggs, I do an 8-hour soak time because it's a little harder to cure. If they're a medium to a small berry, you can actually do 2 hours and 2 hours because they'll take the cure so much quicker. But what you can do, like I said, there's so many different things you can do to these eggs. So this is cured right here. I mean, basically you're halfway done. You put it in the shelf and forget about it. You know, it goes off in 4 hours, you're upside down. So your actual handling time on this is less than 15 minutes for what you'll actually be working on. After you pull them off of the screens, you're going to put them on a screen for a couple of hours with the fan blowing on it. When they're good and tacky, you can remove them from the screen. You know, the longer you leave it out, the drier they're going to get. So you don't want them dried up leather. So you kind of want to be paying attention. So as soon as they're tacky, and you shouldn't be getting red or pink on your hands. The dye should primarily be on the egg. So if you touch it, you come up bright red, and they're still pretty moist. Leave them on the screen a little longer and fan them on. But then it's important to write down what you've done, because you'll forget. I mean, next week you'll forget what you've done. So I label everything, and I just don't write XX because that won't mean anything to me the next day. But what I'll do is I'll usually take my eggs and I'll split them in two, because if I'm fishing coastal streams, I want a sweeter cure. And then if I'm fishing further upriver, they want a saltier cure. So when the fish are coming in, they're trying to purge themselves of the salts. So I'll just set them aside, and I'll either sugar them up the night before I'm going to fish. You know, if you're not sure where you're going to be fishing, I recommend leave them just as they are. And if you're going to be fishing anywhere where the tide affects the river, sweeten up the eggs. If you're going to be fishing further upriver, go heavier on the salt. And probably the safest thing to do is just the night before you're going to fish, pull them out of the freezer, separate them, or, you know, usually I put them up in what I'm going to use for that day. So I normally put them in pint containers. I'll pull them out the night before I'm going to fish. They'll thaw pretty quick, because with a cure, they truly won't freeze.
Yeah.
You know, so in a matter of 2 hours time, they're soft enough for you to work with them without doing any damage. But if I'm going to go down to the Stucco or somewhere down the coast, I will then sweeten them up. Just regular household sugar.
How much sugar do you, like a quarter cup or something?
Well, depending, so on a pint container, I'll lay them out, and I just
Brush them?
lightly coat them with this
Like salt and
sugar.
pepper?
Correct. If you put too much sugar on, though, it will deteriorate the membrane. So any of that you're using, you should be doing just for that day. The next day, it may deteriorate the membrane. And same with scenting your eggs. A lot of guys say, I put this in, I put that in. I'm not a big believer in pre-scenting my eggs, because, for example, if you put anise in all of your eggs and the fish aren't eating anise that day, you might as well go home. So normally what I would do is scent them as we're fishing them. You know, if I've got 3 guys in the boat, I give them each a scent. You know, so one guy will be using sardine, one guy's using tuna, one guy's using anise. And I don't get excited on the first fish, but after one guy's got 2,
Yeah.
we all switch to that.
Yeah. You got it.
But the next day, it can be a completely different scent. But and some of the scents are so acidic, they'll tear down the membranes. Like, for example, if you put sardine in with your cure, it's so acidic, it will deteriorate the membrane. When you go to cast them, you're just going to have splatter all over the place.